Good morning, everybody. This is Nefer, the Righteous Shepherd. I hope you are all doing very, very well and blessed this day. We are officially 3 weeks into the school year, and the update is just about as much as I had expected. My offspring is still being ridiculed for his size, and the same quote-unquote friends that are ridiculing him for his size are telling him to hand over his home lunches when I send him to school. Anyway, let's get into this. Pygmy problems. Pygmy problems. I'm going to share pygmy problems with you today. Alright, so the word pygmy has two definitions and one derogatory slang, but we're not going to get into the slang. We're just going to stick to these two definitions here. As a noun, pygmy is a member of a certain peoples of very short stature in equatorial Africa and parts of Southeast Asia. As an adjective, it is used in names of animals and plants that are much smaller than more typical kinds. Example, pygmy hippopotamus, pygmy water lily, pygmy human. So my bloodline falls into that second category. We are pygmies. We are literally 1/3 smaller than the average American in every physical way. Guru's dad is small too, in both frame and height, but the rest of his family is tall and not really bulky. But to my people, they are large. I am only 5'2", 120 pounds. My mother, at her fittest, was 5'3", 120 pounds. The last I knew, she was around the 100-pound mark, and she was never heavier than 135 pounds in all of her life. We were both around 6 pounds at birth. Many of the babies born around us have been 8 or 9 pounds. My own grandmother was only just over 5 pounds at birth and had to be placed into a brick oven after birth so she wouldn't freeze to death in the wilds of New England. She was born in November. She's a Scorpio. Explains a lot. She is also 5'2" inches. My grandfather, though he seemed so large and imposing to me, was only 5'9". His mother, 5'2". Not sure about his father, but in pictures, he seems small. My own offspring was 6 pounds, 6 ounces at birth. My grandmother remarked at how big he was. So when I started taking him to school, I was shocked when another mother said, "Oh, that's why he's so tiny?" Whoa, tiny? The word has stuck with me since, and I have had to spend every single day making sure that my son's spirit is strong and big, and that he knows his people and his pride, as the world has torn into him because of his size for years. They have said some of the most horrible things to him, his friends, and their parents. One of the most recent I found came from a supposed friend of his. He told Guru, my son, that he would never find anyone, never find a mate, because he is so pathetic and small, that no woman would ever want him. I must say that I've trained Guru well because he laughed it off and joked with me about it, but there was a moment that I caught, when he thought that I was looking away, when I saw the true hurt in his eyes. God, he looks so much like his father when I've gone too far, cut too deep with my words. Same veiled face, but the eyes don't lie. I built a monastery and cut my ties with the Western world to protect Guru, my offspring, from that look, and there it was anyway. Thank the gods that he is strong with the blood of the Aten and has quite a bit of fire, because he burned through the thought away quickly, and he was reminded that he has a great compass that points toward truth. He knows what his friend has said is untrue. This is still just another incident in a string of underhanded remarks, backhanded comments, insults, insinuations, and underestimates spanning 2 generations. The strange thing is, this phenomenon of people noticing and picking on us for our size is pretty recent, as in, from my generation and on. When my grandmother was young, nobody ever mentioned her size. When my mother was in school, her size wasn't an issue either. In fact, looking back through the yearbook, she seems to be average height compared to her classmates. When I was in school, there were at least 2 girls smaller than me, yet I distinctly remember a moment with a friend on the playground that was just devastating. She was being relentlessly teased about her weight. They were calling her fat and all the things that dumb fucking kids do. And I will always be a fighter for the righteous causes, and so of course I was drawn to this little scene, and yep, I got involved. I thought my friend would be grateful. I told her that I totally understood. I was the fat one in my family. But she shrieked at me. How can somebody who's been skinny all their life understand? I was totally taken back. My family was always telling me how chunky I was compared to the rest of them. Must be from the father's side. Those old Dutch, French, Canadian genes show right through her, don't they? It was always said with a tint of disappointment and judgment. So to be called skinny, that really tossed me. I spent that entire summer trying to get fatter. I really wanted to relate to my friend. I wanted to understand her pain in the way that I thought I already had. I had fucked up, and I was not going to let her stand alone. I would be fat with her. When I returned to school for the next grade, I desperately looked for her at the first break so I could show her my progress. I had managed to pack on 10 pounds over the summer, much to my grandmother's dismay, and it showed at the hips, and my face was finally rounder, making my eyes look not so big. I finally saw her just before she got into line in her class. I called out and she turned. I struck a pose right there in front of everybody and said proudly, "I finally put on some weight over the summer." Other kids were now stopped and looking, snickering, giggling. She stared blankly for a moment, then I gestured to my hips. She smiled politely and nodded. "I could see," she said, in a little giggle. But in her eyes, that same sorrowful hardness that says, "You will never understand." That was it. No stance of solidarity as I had imagined. Big fucking disappointment. Hell, I was only 8 or 9 years old. I hadn't even started having visions yet. I had a lot to learn. And on the subject of why humans do what they do, I will probably always fail. The other kids shuffled into line and I went back to my own line, wondering what the fuck I had to do to gain acceptance by even the outcasts. 25 more years later and it's gotten worse. My son is ridiculed on a daily basis when he goes to school. I spent my teen years suffering many of the same things. My friend's church group never wanted to use me for anything laborious, so they always stuck me with the children when I volunteered. That's fine. I got along better with the kids anyway. At least until they reached the age of 10, 11, 12 or so, and started becoming little jerks just like their parents. Judgy little jerks. I maintained a healthy weight then, but I hadn't grown at all since I was 14. So throughout my teen years, I was 5'2", 135 pounds. But, to my family, I was borderline obese. They inspired me to try different diets and workout regimes to stay toned and fit, especially when I hit that phase of life where I wanted to be a singer or a performer, mostly to get a message out to the world on a broader scale. They didn't tell me to do it, but I wanted to please them, and I wanted to look like Britney, damn it. Or rather, maybe they wanted me to look more like Britney, and I just wanted to please them. But Britney wasn't the real shadow over my life. None of the beautiful stars that were out there were the shadow over my life. I was aware of how Hollywood works. I modeled for a time. I can see falseness where it is. No, the dark shadow was my own mother. She was so pretty and exotic and mysterious, strong and independent. She was a goddess, pure fire. Even at my best during my teen years, boys' eyes were always drawn to her first and most. My grandmother always went on and on about how petite and cute she was, and then there was me, the ugly blob next to her. Well, anyway, compared to the true pygmy tribes, our people are giants. Their adult males only reach an average height of 4'11". That's where my own offspring is now. Woot! But here, in North America, the USA specifically, we are tiny and very disrespected for it. They, the big ones, the loud ones, assume that we are weak. They have no idea how strong we really are. Really. We just aren't boastful. We're also quick, agile, and balanced. We work with 90-pound wolf dogs and 900-pound horses. We move hay and plow our land by hand. We are scrappers and we train on a daily basis. They have no idea. They have no idea how we see them as unhealthy, slow, and weak in spite of their bulk and size and height. I've seen it all of my life. The quote-unquote strong ones deteriorate young, around the age of 40, and we, the lean wild folk, keep on going until the day we just die. No rot, no decay, no chronic pain, no burdens to our families, no regrets. I grew up among, and still know many to this day, super old hiker dudes that were so fit and strong, well into their 70s, 80s, and even 90s. There was a free-faced rock climber that my grandparents knew. She was 95 when they first met her climbing El Capitan. They met her climbing again at 98. Free face, no rope, just finger strength. The main bulk of the rangers and hikers and wild folk that I knew were in their 70s. They were young and spunky, smart and light of step. I don't see that here. All I see are broken men who constantly warn us, "Oh, just you wait until you hit 40. You'll feel it then. I used to be so strong and healthy, and then, boom, 40 hit. Bam, broken." I find it really hard to believe, ladies and gentlemen, that within, 3 years or so, I'm going to be so much more deteriorated than I am now. I know pain. I've known pain all of my life, and I just can't imagine that, the pain's gonna get that much worse in that short amount of a time, especially if we're taking care of ourselves the way that we're taking care of ourselves. But now, when I finally get to do my shadow work regarding these subjects, I weep. I weep for that young girl that lives inside of me who had to learn to grow her spirit so big to outshine the tiny vessel that is her body. And I weep for my offspring who now experiences the same. Pygmy problems. What are you gonna do? If you've ever been bullied regarding your weight, whether it be if you're too big or too small, or if you have been bullied because of your ethnicity or any other thing, your religion, let me know in the comments below. If your kids are going through this, also let me know in the comments below. You would have thought by now, a whole new generation later, that we would be better than this. But a few days in the public school system will show you exactly where we stand as a society. Alright, questions, comments, and concerns, please post them, and I will see you guys later. Come what may, namaste, and don't let the bastards wear you down.